بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir Al-Qur'an. We have reached Surah Al-Mursalat, and Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah chose 8 verses out of this surah. Now, even when they translate and the title of this surah, it's an interpretation, because really it all depends on how the mursalat are interpreted. There are 3 interpretations. One that says that al-mursalat are the like all these verses at the beginning of the surah. So we have really 5. So المرسل أعوذ بالله السميع من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والمرسلات عرفا فالعاصفات عصفا والناشرات نشرا فالفارقات فرقا فالملقيات ذكرا. These 5, one interpretation interpreted them, all of them, as like referring to wind, where the wind is playing different roles, functions, if you will. And the second interpretation, all of these 5 are references to angels. The problem with the first one is that the winds do not really deliver revelation. فالملقيات ذكرى. So the third interpretation, it's overlapping in the sense of some of them are interpreted as references to wind, and at least number 5 is about delivering a revelation. So the English translation is in fact an interpretation, or reflecting an interpretation, by those winds sent forth successively. And this is like the other oaths where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would highlight some of the signs in the universe that He had created. Again, we are permitted to take oath only by the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we should refrain from making this a casual thing, for there is a prohibition about not the taking oath, but making this a light thing. We shouldn't. The name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be mentioned in glorification. So by those winds sent forth successively, by those, the winds really in brackets, because there is no mention of the winds directly. So by those sent forth successively, mursal being set loose, if you will. فالعاصفة عصفا, usually we speak about the name of a storm in Arabic is عاصفة. So this might help justifying interpreting these the first 4 as references to wind. The third one, وَالنَّاشِرَةِ نَشْرًا, and those scattering rain clouds widely. وَالنَّاشِرَةِ نَشْرًا, rain clouds in brackets, because it's not directly mentioned in the text. And by those who distinguish, those who set apart, really doesn't mention what is it, and it must be the angels distinguishing truth from false. And number 5 is obviously about delivering revelation فالملقيات ذكر. That's not the role of winds. Winds could drive ships, the sail. Winds could, of course, drive clouds. Winds could basically spread, help in pollination. Winds, but not spreading revelation or distinguishing between right and wrong, between truth and falsehood, or truth from falsehood. Ending excuses and giving warnings. عذرا أو نذرا. Surely what you are promised will come to pass. The verses that Imam Ghazali chose, they are we did not reach, but let me say something. The in the previous session, when we dealt with Surah Al-Insan, there was mention of the human being. There was a question, but really it's a confirmation that the human being, there was a time when the human being did not exist. Humanity did not exist. We know this. Even atheists would admit that there was a time when humanity did not exist, though they would stick to the naive, silly notion of the human beings coming at the end of evolution. So dead matter, would have the will to produce through evolution this magnificent being with 86 billion neurons, and one can talk about all the rest of the magnificent functions that we have. Subhanallah, this cannot be the case, but what I'm trying to say is that in Surah Al-Insan, there is mention of creating the human being from that drop, nutfatin amshaj, since we talk about, obviously it's a reference to the sperm and the ovum, ultimately leading to, after fertilization, to having a zygote. So the order there is mentioning the creation of the human being, and then it talks about the guidance, and it talks about the reward for the virtuous. For in the reading before that from Surah Al-Qiyamah, there is a reference to creating the human being from مني يمنى النطف ألم يكن نطفة من مني يمنى, and obviously it speaks about the attachment of the zygote, and subhanallah, thereafter, after this process, creating the male and female, and there's reference to the resurrection. So in Al-Mursalat that we are dealing with, there's reference to creating the human being, but we have there's already mention of the warning, and that the promise, what you are promised, will come to pass, definitely is going to take place. The stars at one point will be put out. The stars definitely put out. No more light, no more star. Our sun is one of these stars. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا is going to reach an end, and that's it. The universe will come the way we know it. It's going to come to an end. The sky will be torn apart. The mountains will be blown away. That's one of many things that will happen to the mountains. I'm talking about the Quranic narrative. وإذا الجبال نسفت وإذا السماء فرجت وإذا الجبال نسفت وإذا الرسل أقتت. The messengers time comes up. There's a set time, there's a defined time for the messengers, as the interpretation one might say, to testify against their own people, for which day, the day, all this being set. It's a day of judgment. ليوم الفصل. It's the day of the final decision, if you will. People would know what they have already. They know what they have done. Those who have controlled their lust, they have controlled their limbs, they have controlled their tongues, they have controlled their behavior. They reached the behavior. The cornerstone is adab, the proper relationship, the proper behavior. Adab based on the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Adab in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Adab which would translate into adab with humanity, adab with the universe, adab with animals. Yes, there is. We are prohibited against cursing animals, for example, slapping animals, putting too much weight on these animals. There are adab with everything. Those who, inshallah, descend to paradise, there are those who are non-believers, staunch arch enemies of Islam, arch enemies. They are destined to hellfire if they die in that state. And there are those of us who they are believers, and كل ابن آدم خطاء وخير الخطائين التوابون. All the children of Adam are sinners. We don't inherit. There is no original sin. We are not responsible for what other people, our predecessors, did. You're not responsible for your own parents even. Ultimately, you are on your own unless you have influenced people in a negative way. If you have influenced them in a positive way, you'll get reward. If you have influenced them in a negative way, you have negative points. These are sins. On that day, there will be punishment for the deniers, the liars, and then there is mention of the punishments that took place in early history. Did we not destroy earlier disbelievers? ألم نهلك الأولين ثم نتبعهم الآخرين. And we will make the latter disbelievers follow them. This is how we deal with the wicked, with the كذلك نفعل بالمجرمين. It's those who commit crimes, criminals. And it's not about the law of the land. We talk about crossing red lines in terms of divine laws, the relation between the law of the land and divine laws that sometimes they overlap, like a Venn diagram. Sometimes the law of the land prohibits that which is halal, sometimes they permit that which is haram. Almost in all countries around the world. And now after these 19 verses, there is mention of the creation of the human being. أَلَمْ نَخْلُقكُم مِّن مَّاءٍ مَّهِينٍ. Did we not create you from a humble fluid? Talking about the sperm, for example, and always with an ovum in the picture, placing it in a secure place, the womb, for example. فجعلناه في قرار مكين إلى قدر معلوم, until an appointed time. The appointed time, of course, we talk about the normally 9 months pregnancy, but this is not about details in this field. If you read about even when you are not specialized, gynecology is fascinating, subhanallah. Have we not made the earth a lodging? Now, after the a lodging for whom? For the living, but also for the dead. And there's reference to the magnificent signs in the form of mountains, and place upon it towering firm mountains, and giving you fresh water to drink. Again, a warning to the deniers. وَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. This is the second time to the disbelievers. They will be انطلقوا, proceed to that which you have denied, to hellfire. It's not mentioned directly, but that's exactly where they will end up, because in the next verses there's a graphic detail of what happens in hellfire. Proceed into the shade of which rises like the smoke of the fire, like 3 columns, as if we like different directions, providing neither coolness nor shelter from the flames. لا ظليل ولا يغني من اللهب. Indeed, it hairs sparks as big as huge castles. إنها ترمي بشرر كالقصر كأنه جمالة صفر. And as dark as black camels. The third time, وَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Woe on that day to the deniers. On that day, they will not be in a position to speak. هذا يوم لا ينطقون. They will not be permitted to speak. They will not be permitted to offer excuses. They will not be permitted to apologize. ولا يؤذن لهم فيعتذرون. Again, once more, وَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Woe on that day to the deniers. As if basically it addresses I have tendency to think that there was one day in the Muslim world, practically, if not everyone, the majority, overwhelming majority, were believers. But today we do have these deniers having their own loud message, very loud message. These are prophets of doom, the deniers, and you can sense that it's really about Islam more than anything else. It's a day of discernment. It's a day of decision, final decision. Again, هذا يوم الفصل. We have gathered you along with earlier disbelievers for punishment. If you have a scheme, do you have a way to save yourself? Can you save your own neck on that day? Then use it. Astaghfirullah. What is the challenge for them? Can they use it, their scheme, or against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And there is another, maybe now it's the 5th time, وَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. woe on that day to the deniers. And then it goes into describing now not hellfire, rather it talks about the believers, the reward for the believers, the righteous, the virtuous. إن المتقين في ظلال وعيون. إن المتقين, those who avoid that which is haram, and they avoid even a little bit of that which is halal, permitted in the sense of in order not to be when that halal is on the edge of the haram, it should be a clear cut position. In the in paradise, there will be shade, cool shade, and springs and fruits that they desire. They will be told, of course, eat and drink happily for what you used to do. Happily, هنيئا, okay, happily, to their satisfaction, that there is no harm at all with the drink or the food, no side effects, no, because paradise is all good during this life. If you eat and drink, it's possible to have a stomach ache. It's possible to suffer one way or the other, because we choose, and we might choose whether in terms of kind or quantity. We might not really heed the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They talk about, there are certain countries. I'm not going to name. There are countries in the east and in the west where there is unprecedented obesity, and it could be because of stress. It could be because of the hormones in meat. When I say stress, then because people might it's a stressful life, then food for comfort. You enjoy it and just continue until some people reach their weight reaches hundreds of pounds. It's not in paradise. Not that you stole this food, but if you have extra food, just donate it. Don't over consume. This is the way the good doers are rewarded. But again, the narrative shifts back to the deniers, maybe the 6th time, 7th time in a row. وَيْلُ يَوْمِئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ, and thereafter they will be they are told, eat and enjoy yourselves for a little while, meaning right here, for you are truly wicked. And again, وَيْلُ يَوْمِئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ, when they are told to prostrate, to bow down, to submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what it is. They do not really bow down. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ ارْكَعُوا لَا يَرْكَعُونَ وَيْلُ يَوْمِئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. And the very last verse, فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَهُ يُؤْمِنُونَ. So what message after this, after the Qur'an, would they believe in? They will. There are different levels of deniers. Alhamdulillah, the Quran is a book of guidance, a universal book of guidance for all humanity. And all that is needed is to heed the call of the Quran. With this, we come to the end of this surah. The next one is Surah An-Naba, and Imam Ghazali chose 16 verses from the very beginning. Until then, inshallah, until the next reading. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.